Football Manager 25, after being delayed a month, has officially been announced by Sports Interactive. It's going to be launching on November 26th. I think they've already missed a trick by not making it launch on November 25th. It's also now available to pre-order, and that's pretty much all we've got. There's no news on new features, there's no new screenshots from Football Manager. There are actually some on the Steam store page, which we'll go through shortly. And importantly, there's no gameplay yet still of the new game. We do have a roadmap of when they'll talk about various different new features and things, but most of these dates are yet to be announced, so it's not that helpful. So I can't really help but feel that this whole thing at the moment is a big own goal for Sports Interactive. The announcement was already delayed by a month, and the prevailing feeling from you lot within the community, from what I've been hearing from you, is that a lot of you are quite frustrated that you've just not been able to see anything yet, and that everything's being delayed, and people just aren't very confident. So I was really hoping that today, when the game was going to be announced, that they would blow us all away with some amazing stuff. But they haven't. Now, ordinarily, with Football Manager, this isn't an issue. When FM24 was announced, it was the exact same thing. They announced it, put the game for pre-order, and said, here's a roadmap of things that we're going to talk about on these dates. For FM22, it was the exact same. They announced the game, announced pre-orders, and say we're going to start talking about new features in late September and onwards. But this year, I do feel a bit let down and disappointed by the way they've announced the game, particularly within the mood of things being that the player base is very anxious and agitated about the game that they love. It's going through a huge revamp, and the players that love the game, they just want some reassurance that their game isn't going to be changed forever in ways they don't like. And I think you can totally understand where that worry comes from, because the narrative so far has been, we're going to take this out of the game, we're going to delay it a month as well. People are getting quite concerned. And particularly when the fan base is as loyal as Football Manager as well, that takes some doing, I must say. Now, I have had the pleasure of meeting loads of members of the team at Sports Interactive. They're all great people, all very passionate about the game, just like we are as well. They do not want to make a bad game. Their aim is to make something that they enjoy playing as much as we do. They're not just taking things out of the game for the sake of it to upset us, right? They're taking things out of the game so they can focus on the core fundamentals of rebuilding this game from the ground up in a brand new engine, which then sets the whole thing up for the next 20 plus years, right? But you have to start showing us some of the gameplay, because fans are getting agitated, and the longer it happens, the more worries and rumours start to spread. And so, although it's no different to any other year, they announce the game launch date and say pre-orders open right now, give us your money, start pre-ordering the game. Because so much is changing, because they've not announced what's actually going to be in the game and what new features are coming to it and what it's even going to look like, really, people are getting quite frustrated about that. And actually me included, I must say, with all of that. As a fan and consumer of the game, I don't think that's the right approach this time around. It's very similar to a YouTube video. I will never ask someone to subscribe within the first 30 seconds of a video because I've not provided enough value in those first 30 seconds. I'll ask someone to subscribe 5, 10, 15 minutes into the video, but those first 30 seconds, I've not given you enough value yet to make you feel like you should subscribe. At the moment, I don't think they've shown enough to make us want to pre-order the game. Now, that is me speaking as a consumer. Of course, it's my job to make videos on this game, so I will pre-order it, obviously. But if I wasn't making videos, I wouldn't be pre-ordering it just yet. Especially because there isn't any news yet on one of the biggest pre-order bonuses that you get with Football Manager. Historically, if you pre-order the game, you get up to 2 weeks of early access to play the game during the beta period where they look for bugs, you help them find the bugs and things like that, so they can fix it all in time for the main launch whenever the launch date is. However, there has been nothing on any of the documentation that I've seen so far, any of the adverts, any of the tweets, etc., that say if you pre-order, you're going to get early access. Now, I don't want to speculate too much on that. Maybe they just forgot to do it, or maybe there won't be any early access. Who knows? We don't know yet because they don't like telling us things at the moment. I would be shocked if there wasn't an early access period, particularly with the game moving to Unity. They're going to want to try and get as much testing as possible before the main launch actually releases. But it's not on this roadmap. Not on the roadmap, so, you know, up in the air. Anyway, here is where it gets awkward, because obviously I have links in my description to places where you can pre-order Football Manager for a discount and I get a bit of a kickback from it. As I have just said though, I wouldn't pre-order the game if I was you, unless you're the type of person that gets Football Manager every single year, no matter what. If that is you, link in the description to Fanatical. I'll talk more about it at the end of the video. But if you're not that type of person, I really would just wait for gameplay to see if it's your cup of tea. If it is, then you can come into my video descriptions and click the link to get Football Manager 25 at the cheapest possible price that I can find. I am also trying to use my position as a big dog within the Football Manager space to try and play off a few of these retailers against each other. I want to try and get the cheapest possible price for you. At the moment, it's not really working. Football Manager is made by Sports Interactive, who are owned by Sega. Sega have authorized retailers that only ever go to those retailers. And I think basically Sega say to them, you can sell it for this price. This is the cheapest you can go. And because of that, when I say, can you do it cheaper than these guys who are doing it at this price and then moving around, it's not really working out. I'm trying to help us all out here, but it's not working out for me at the moment. Anyway, let's move on to these screenshots that have been released on Steam and the other online retailers. We've only got 5, and one of them is when you're choosing your club. So this is a brand new looking screen, and actually, I quite like how this looks. So right here, we're at stage 3 of 3, so I presume they've already gone through the database setup, your manager profile, and now you're choosing the club here. We're choosing men's football, so obviously you can drop that menu down for women's football if you want to play in the WSL instead. Not quite sure why they've blurred out the Championship, League 1, League 2, the Vanarama National League North and South. Maybe they're trying to renew the EFL license at the moment. Who knows? I'm not quite sure why they blur that out, really. But I do like how it gives you a bit of league information here, such as the previous winners. So, for example, maybe you want to manage in Croatia instead, and you don't know who's the best team in Croatia. You can quickly see who's won the recent titles. Some notable rivalries are quite fun as well. Also quite like how it's nice at a glance just to know which teams are going to do well. You can see here Arsenal predicted to finish second, Man City predicted to come first, and I've already spotted a bug here because Man United are predicted to finish in 6th place. I'm not quite sure that's going to happen. I will say it does look nicer than the default FM24 team selector. At a glance, this doesn't give you quite as much information about the league or individual clubs. You have to click into each club to actually get quite a bit of information about them. I presume once you click onto one of these clubs here, you'll get all the same information at the top here. That's my assumption at least. But I do prefer how this looks compared to how this looks. So for me, that's a positive. It's a plus. The next screenshot is of a screen that I don't think actually exists currently in Football Manager. So as you can see, we are the manager of Brighton, and on the top we've got different tabs. The portal is the new home screen. We've covered that in previous videos. That's where you get a big overview of kind of everything. It's what Football Manager kind of wants to be your home screen, the thing you come back to all the time. We're here on the squad tab, and this obviously is just a huge hub of your entire squad. So on FM24, for example, this is your squad screen, right? You've just got all the players and as much info as you want by adding in different columns and stuff like that. This seems to be more of a hub for your squad. So you can kind of see your top players, you can see the top youth players, and actually look down here. There seems to be a regen face on Cozy Adubury. I'm not quite sure if that's meant to be there, but that's maybe what the regen's going to look like. This is what it looks like in FM24. And that's FM25. I think FM25 has got nicer lighting. I'll be honest, it's probably too small to really make out proper details, but I think FM25 regens could be looking a little better. Anyway, back to this full screenshot. I assume you'll click into this tile to then see your entire first team of 33 players with an average age of 25 years old. Then if you want to change training, you click into training. If you want to see who's out and injured, go to the medical centre. So rather than having all these different icons down the sides, I guess it's just a different way of presenting the information. Not quite sure what to make of it just yet because I've not played it and we've not seen any gameplay of it yet. We don't actually know how it all flows, but I think it does look more modern. And I do think it also probably looks a little bit easier to navigate for console players. I'll be honest, I think more people play Football Manager on consoles now than PC, and if that's the way things are going, then, you know, all power to it. If that's how the game's going to grow, and from a selfish point of view, I get a bigger audience, great. But I do think it looks a little bit more refined. I do quite like the new look of it. I am a fan. Whether I'm still a fan after I've actually interacted with it, played with it, and seen some gameplay of it, then it could change. But from the actual screenshots, I do quite like this. What I don't like, though, are the new player profiles. This is it. It just doesn't quite feel like they've made the best use of the space. Now, I will preface this with saying we have no idea what resolution these screenshots have been taken in, right? I'm assuming 1080p. I play Football Manager in 4K, which is why I've got all of these different boxes. I mean, there's too many boxes. I don't need all these boxes. I've got 2 boxes for contracts here, for example, right? I also prefer having the attribute analysis up there as well. That's always quite nice to see. Hopefully that's going to be an FM25 as well. But I can't see any sort of like drop-down arrows to change things. Like on here, we've got the drop-down arrow to change things, the drop-down arrow to change all this stuff here, look. I find that a little bit concerning, if I'm honest with you. I thought there might be more customization, particularly when they were talking about the tile and cards for how you can interact with different bits of information on players' profiles and around the game. I thought it would mean the player profile itself is very, very customizable. Looking at this, I can't see any way that it is. But, you know, again, we've not seen any gameplay Football Manager. It would be lovely if you could just show us. Just show us. Please. Please. I'm just begging you. One thing I do like, though, is how they've separated out the set-piece technical abilities here, which is quite nice. That just makes things a little bit easier to find on the screen. So I quite like that change. Also, a goalkeeper rating out of 10 as opposed to 3 is also quite a nice change too, in case your goalkeeper gets sent off and you need the best player outfield to go in goal. I don't like this new star thing here where 3.5 stars is 3 plus. Just make it 3.5 stars, surely. You don't have to have the 3 plus on there. That just seems a little bit like wasted space. Like, this feels easier to understand at a quick glance, I feel, as opposed to how they've done it. But do remember, this is all a work in progress, so hopefully they might see this and think, okay, Tom said that, let's change it all. We've also got our first look at women's football. This is the profile of Fran Kirby, a Brighton women's player. Now, before we go any further, I can already read the comments. Fran Kirby's got technique of 17, but Matoma's only got 14. What's this woke nonsense? To my understanding, all the attributes are in relation to their own gender. Within the women's game, Fran Kirby is one of the best players, clearly, and she's a great dribbler in the women's game, a great finisher in the women's game, got great first touch in the women's game. Matoma is an elite dribbler in the men's game, but he's not quite as good as finishing in the men's game as, say, Erling Haaland, for example, who's probably got 20 finishing. One thing to note on Fran Kirby's profile, though, is that there are new roles coming to FM25. Channel Forward is one of them. I'll be looking forward to whenever they do a deep dive on that. Again, it's all to be announced. We just don't know when we're going to hear about it. We'll hear about it at some point. Then the final screenshot is another player profile. It's of Evan Ferguson. I don't think there's anything new we can really look at here from what we can see. There's no new roles next to his name or anything like that. Now, there are going to be other tabs at the top here. Personal, I presume that's all contract stuff. Performance, I guess, is all about his recent form over the season. Career, I guess you can look through all his career stats, and comparison, compare him to other players in your team and around the world. I guess the one thing missing there is transfer. I guess that would go underneath the same one as contract. Also, discuss isn't there to talk to your player. Again, maybe that comes under personal, to have a personal interaction with them, or performance maybe to talk to them about their performances in match and in training. But that's all we've been able to get so far from the day that they've announced FM25. Week beginning 7th of October, they'll introduce us to women's football, which I'm looking forward to hearing about. I actually sponsor Lincoln City Women and Lincoln United Women this season, purely because women's football's coming to FM25, so it'd be cool to do some stuff with them in the game. So I'm looking forward to that. We will hear more about the interface, tactics, match experience, your manager, and much more, but we just don't know when, which is really... Anyway, if you are one of those people that do want to pre-order FM25 right now because you do it every single year, I recommend doing it through Fanatical. That's who I've got an affiliate link with, and it's the best price I can find right now. They actually list the game with an 18% discount, which takes it down from $44.99 to $36.89. But in the bottom right of the screen, you can enter a coupon code. If you type in TomFM, click apply, it then takes it down to £35.05. Once you buy the game, you get given a product key. Then you go onto Steam, click Games at the top, activate a product on Steam, and then just put your code in there, and it will end up being in your Steam library. Anyway, let me know what you think of FM25 in the comments down below, and make sure you subscribe to the channel. I'll keep you up to date with all of the information on FM25 as and when it comes out, and hopefully some more positive news coming soon.